Good morning, everybody. My name is Mridul Nagpal, an alumni from the class of 2004-2006. It's been good 3 weeks today that we rolled out IIEBM's direct-to-home lecture series. Over the past few days, 30 plus sessions have been hosted, and we have been interacting with eminent personalities from the industry, talking about their career growth path, speakers coming and sharing their inspirational journey, personality development, etc. This week onwards, we'll move a bit forward and take a sneak peek into the world of business. And today, we have someone who looks at business only and only from improvement perspective. Boys and girls, please welcome Mr. Yayati Zende.
Hi, Mridul. Are you able to see and hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
You want to say hello to our audience?
Hi, everyone. And yes, a very good morning. And thank you so much for being a part of this particular webinar session.
All right. Process mindset, process thinking, process transformation is Yayati's core domain. Yayati lives and breathes process transformation each day and considers this to be the way of life. Believes process transformation is not just important for today's business, but a backbone for today's business and organizational needs. Yayati is blessed with some amazing talent in music. Rock shows, hip-hop, Bollywood are some of his forte. Believe me, he can set the stage on fire, as I've seen some of his performances live in variety of shows in Mumbai and Pune. Yayati follows discipline and focuses hard on his fitness. 10 kilometers marathon with best timing being 49 minutes. Correct, Yayati?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Enjoys cycling, workouts at the gym as well. With this, I wholeheartedly welcome Yayati to share his perspective on business transformation with our new batch of 2020.
Thank you so much, Mridul. And trust me, I would like to actually start off with a note of thanks. You definitely being a close friend, allowing me to, in fact, come over here, be a part of your batch interaction, which is there for the new incoming batch, I think speaks a lot from an alumni perspective, that the kind of connect that you have with your institute, I think that speaks volumes now. And definitely a big thanks to IIEBM, Dr. Jay Singh, of course, the entire staff whom I've been interacting with. I think this is a very good platform. And you won't believe it, Mridul, I think I have done batch interactions at my college, Symbiosis, Pune, but first time an online virtual one. So yes, welcome to the way things are changing differently. So why not? And we are adapting to the times, and maybe that is something I'll also talk about a bit more in detail as we move ahead. Sure. But yeah, thank you so much.
Over to you. Yes.
Okay. I can access my slides from here, right?
You can. Yeah. Rishikesh has already started the presentation.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Rishikesh.
You
okay, so
through the presentation.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks everyone for joining. I know it means a lot, and trust me when Mridul told me that this is going to be for the incoming batch who is due to come in IIEBM, and I think what a way to start, right? This year has been full of surprises, and I think maybe what you guys would have thought of 3-4 months ago, how your MBA start would have been, this has definitely put things in a very different perspective. And it actually takes me back 16 years to when I started my MBA. So I'm also an MBA from Symbiosis Pune, SIMS, the same batch as Mridul, 0406. I'm also a computer science graduate. So yeah, com science to MBA. We can talk about that story at some other point in time. But this gives me a bit of a nostalgic feel every time I interact with an MBA batch, whether it's at my institute. Now I'm talking to you guys. This, of course, is slightly different. I'm not able to see you all sitting in the audience, but definitely a different feel altogether. So this always gives me a sense of nostalgia that, oh my God, I was there 16 years ago, and I look back at the times and I think about, whoa, okay, what all has changed in the last 16 years, right? I mean, forget 16 years, what all has changed in the last 6 months? Change is so evident. Change is so predominant in every phase, every aspect of our life, that there are times when it takes us by surprise, no doubt about it. But I think we as human beings have that fundamental urge or fundamental need to just adapt to things. And there is a particular reason why that happens. So I will be talking about that as we move ahead, but just thought I'd give you guys a bit of a background of where I come from. So yes, I've got a total work ex of 14 years post MBA. I'm currently working with Deutsche Bank as an AVP in the transformation process team. Yeah, process, as Mridul said, has been a part of my life since 2008, and yeah, it's been an amazing journey so far. So before Deutsche Bank, I have worked across with multiple companies. So it was KPIT Cummins. I worked with Infosys. I've also done a good stint at KPMG Global Services in Bangalore, Credit Suisse, and now Deutsche Bank. And within DB also, I've been a part of the change team itself. So what is all of that about? We will come to that eventually. A couple of things that I definitely look forward to doing is, of course, a lot of good stakeholder management. So, coordinating with teams. So process is one aspect of it. People is another thing which I hold of high importance as well. So I think when you handle stakeholder emotions, when you handle team emotions, when you handle people emotions, I think that's what is the entire key to success. Process just plays that ace in the card, like the ace in your hand that you have, which you can throw at the end. So yeah, I have worked across quite a few domains as well, as you can see. So I would not limit myself to one particular type of area of work or one particular industry. I think process thinking is something that can be applied at any point in your life, actually, for that matter. And when I started getting into the world of process, I realized that, oh yeah, this has always been deep rooted within us. So there has to be a start somewhere. There has to be a trigger point, right? And in fact, what I do in terms of process is, we'll come to that, and that's process improvement through lean methodologies and things like that. Actually, on that note, I would want to take a bit of a pause before I move ahead. So, and I want to talk about this entire concept of lean methodology. So don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't want to make this too technical a conversation from my side. I'm of course looking forward to some good and interesting questions from you guys towards the end. Uh, Sorry about that. Yeah, but I would definitely want to talk about some of the key things that, like, help drive a process mindset, help drive process thinking, and what exactly is process improvement is the implementation of that. So once you develop that kind of a thought process, once you develop that kind of a mindset, you ultimately look at things from an improvement point of view. And it's not just work. Like I've always said, it applies across. It could, examples we will come to here. And actually, that's a tagline that I would want to drive. And that's what I've written under my photograph out there. So what I do is I drive transformational change by adopting the process mindset and by enabling process thinking. So I thought, you know what, if at all I were to meet myself again at the start of my MBA in a similar session like this, and if I had a one-on-one with me, what was the one thing that I would talk to myself about? Like, you see those series, like, what do you tell your 18-year-old self? What do you tell your 20-year-old self? So yeah, so this is sort of, I'm going to drive that discussion in that manner. So because where you are right now, I was there 16 years ago, how things are different. And if I were to go back, what would I tell Yayati at that point in time? Right? So I would want to start off with a bit of a theoretical stuff around what is lean methodology, right? So lean is nothing but, so you guys would have, of course, heard about Toyota. So Toyota being the conglomerate that they are. So during World War II, these guys, so obviously they are like manufacturing intensive. They've got like really good products in terms of automobiles and things like that. But World War II, they wanted to step up the production and they started adopting something called as a lean methodology. When we say lean, what do we mean? Like, so people who are like on a weight loss program, fat loss program, they keep saying, I want to get lean. So basically you're trimming down things. It applies to the same. So that's the same application of it in the real world, in your professional lives, is trim down things, remove stuff that is unwanted. So that is where, like, people started picking up these concepts that Toyota applied in World War II to enhance their manufacturing production. And in the 90s, there were two gentlemen, and I'm really sorry I forgot the names. I should have kept that in mind. But there were these two gentlemen who actually came up with sort of narrowing down what was it that Toyota did and what is the framework that it should be called. And that's when the concept of lean came out. So lean as a whole talks about that you need to trim down things, yes, and the best way to achieve this, is twofold. You have to respect people, and once you respect people, you have to talk about continuous improvement. Like, you have to just deal with that. And that's the same point which I started off on, that it's all about people management, right? So you handle people, you manage people, and once you have everyone together on the same page, once you've engaged them in the right manner, you move towards, of course, you need to respect them, and it has to be a mutual respect. So that's something that will come over time once you start practicing this. Ultimately leads to continuous improvement, because when everyone is on the same page, you talk about how we can make things better. And I think that's a tagline of quite a few companies also, right? Let's make things better, let's do that. So I know that, like, you have the entire internet at your disposal. You can go back, do your research, no doubt about it. So I'm just going to give you some snippets from everyday life, some basic examples, but I would really want you to go ahead and start exploring this entire aspect on your own. Continuous improvement, the second part of lean. So what exactly is continuous improvement? You keep looking at processes, you keep looking how things function. And I'm not talking manufacturing, okay? They took lean in the 90s and they applied it across many industries. And trust me, it worked a lot. There are quite a lot of success stories out there. You can read about them online. Definitely makes sense in eliminating waste, definitely makes sense in eliminating stuff that you really don't need. So continuous improvement, what does that mean? You keep looking at your processes, you keep understanding what the processes are, you keep understanding what these processes are talking about, and ultimately it leads to process improvement. And you don't just stop over there. So you've improved it once. No, you look at it, you improve it again. So Nokia did it in the early 2000s, right? I mean, the 3310 and the 3315, I think they were phenomenal. I still miss playing Snake on my Nokia 3315. I don't know if you guys would have even played, or even Space Invader for that matter, right? They moved on, then came colored screens. Yes, we did not have colored screens back in the day on our mobiles. We moved on to colored screens. We moved on to I think it was capacitive touch or something like that. So touch screens came later, and what we have now as smartphones was just a little bit of a brick around 20 years ago. So yes, and why has that happened? Because people keep thinking of what exactly is required. How can we make things better? How can we make things better? Respect people, look at continuous improvement. So that's lean. So that's a little bit about me. And yeah, I would not want to harp too much on this slide. So let me move ahead. And let's come to process thinking. So what exactly are we talking about out here? Let's take a step back and let's just talk about what is it about process that we all know? What is it about process that we all do? So how do you want to break down a process, right? I mean, everyone does a process. We all do it inherently. Some of us do it knowingly. Some of us follow it unknowingly. So I would want to start off by just talking about, I take a process and I break it down, and I can apply this right from a very simple example to an extremely complex one as well. So a bit of a textbook kind of a jargon out here. So process, what do you mean by that? So this is a series of activities. Activities are nothing but your day-to-day tasks, okay, that are triggered by some input parameters. That means something is causing you to perform this. Like there is a cause, there is a reason, there's a rationale as to why you're performing those particular tasks. Who is performing them? Either I as a user, you as a user, together we are doing it as a team. We are doing this as a user and a system. So for example, I'm posting content online, I do it on my mobile. So that's me, a user and system. So there are multiple combinations that come out here, but I'm talking about the very basic. And we do it over a period of time, right? So for marketing managers, they need to look at their numbers every day in the morning. So that's a task with their, right? So they do it daily at one point in time. As a business head, I will look at my field numbers. I will look at my sales numbers at the end of every month, or maybe end of every fortnight. That's enough for me in order to gauge how my team is progressing, how my team is performing. So the periodicity or the time frame will vary depending on the scenario. Of course, one thing you have to keep in mind, why you're performing all of these tasks, there's a particular output, there's a particular outcome that is expected, unexpected. We'll come to that later. But yeah, there is, of course, a particular outcome that we all desire. So there's a desired output, the results that we want to see as a part of the tasks that we have performed, as a part of the activities that we perform. And that is the ultimate goal, right? Now, to chalk out an example, maybe let's keep something which is very simple, right? We can talk about this particular webinar itself. So Webinar Jam, like I said, again, thanks to IIBM for having me here. It's definitely an honor. I think this is the first time I'm interacting with the students of this college. Mridul is, of course, a very good friend of mine. Sorry, I digressed a bit, but you're coming back. So what are the activities that we are doing out here? We are having direct to home sessions which are there, right? This is something which is very good, that is set up by the institute. So what are the parameters for this? What do you think would have triggered all of this? Let's start thinking about that. It's a course requirement. Yes. From your point of view, let me be very clear. This is something that the college wants you to do, and hence you're doing it. Okay, that's completely fine. I do understand that. But let's think of it the other way. So from the college's point of view, so the college wants to ensure that, like, you are already there, you're already geared up by the time the classes start, maybe in person, or when whatever is happening right now moves up to the next, the course starts getting tougher. So this is a bit of an insight from the industry. So there is an entire thought process that is actually triggering this, right? And hence we are having this activity of the webinar which is taking place. This is performed by a user and a system, or both user and system. In this scenario, yes, we have users out here who are Mridul, me. We have our systems in place, which is Webinar Jam. There are more players out here. Right now, I know it's only Mridul, me, and this particular system, but I know you all are there on the other side of the screen as well. So yeah, so this is the entire population of people that we're talking about who are users at the moment itself. This is right now happening one-off, right? The one session which is happening with the Yayati talking about process thinking is happening as a one-off event. But as you can also see, what is one-off for me as a user is happening periodically for the college, is happening periodically for you. So the viewpoint from what you see a process will vary always from that particular user's perspective. Me as a user, I have different aspirations from a process. You as a user will always have different aspirations, right? And of course, what is the ultimate output that we are looking at? College wants to ensure that you're getting some good insights from the industry, not just people like me who are coming and talking, people with like more varied experience. You also have your own alumni base who's coming and interacting with you. You have your college admins, you have your college staff, you have your own batchmates who might be interacting. So the entire output is what? Let's keep people engaged, not just engagement in terms of, okay, the college is there for you, okay, these industry are there for you, okay, the alumni is there for you. The ultimate goal is that we are prepping you up before you come into the course, or by the time you come to the course, you get some idea of what you're getting yourself into, right? So this is like a very simple thing that I'm talking about. We can actually put it in a more complex scenario. We can say that let's talk about something which is more real time happening. So the entire part of people developing the COVID vaccine, you can apply these same parameters out there. You can apply activities, you can apply people, you can apply inputs, output triggers, period of time. This can be done. For those of you who might take up HR, right, or recruitment within that, employee onboarding, employee offboarding, I think that's another good example. And you can actually put it out here. Input parameter for employee onboarding, there are certain list of documents that are there. What are the activities? Who are the players first? The players are, of course, the employee who's joining, the organization who's accepting the employee as a employing the person. So activities that are performed, the user needs to fill up certain set of documents, provide them to the organization. Period of time, it's a one-time thing. Yes, what is the result? So that the organization has a proper set of documents that sort of facilitate the entire candidature of that particular candidate, onboard them onto their organization, put them through the orientation program. So as you can see, one process gets over, the other process starts. So you can look at it as like activities that are happening, or you can start chunking them into the different processes that we look at. So examples, I think I've given quite a few right now, right? So from your perspective also, the preparation work you might have done before coming to this particular session, before the exam, before your entrance exams, before you guys came into your MBA program. And one thing I can which I over the last 2 years. So I put up a lot of Instagram posts about my running and all, and some photos used to be out of the place. And one of my college juniors actually told me that why don't you set it up or crop it? Why don't you take the photo in a 1:1 aspect ratio? And I'm like, I know 4:3 and 16:9. What are you talking about? So they're like, sir, Instagram is like a square thing, right? So you just need to have it 1:1. So that way you'll always ensure what your photo looks like. So there you go. That's something new that you learn. You adopt it into your thing. So all of these things that I'm talking about. So what is something which is most common, and why have I kept this point at the bottom and towards the end? All of these are happening in the present. When I say these are happening in the present, that means all the processes that you are looking at, the entire thought process that you need to have, for which you need to have that awareness of what is being done, what is being executed. All of that happens in the present. Yes, we can definitely create a process. We can say that, like, maybe from tomorrow, instead of 11:30, we will start this session at 10:30. They could be, so there's a change in that. Maybe we will have 2 moderators instead of 1. Maybe we will have 2 or 3 panelists instead of 1. Those are changes in the process, but those will happen. Those will get executed later. So this is that process thinking which is there. But the execution of the process, the entire implementation of the process happens at real time always. And the main reason why I want to stress on this is that I want you all to sort of now develop that awareness factor which is there. Be aware of all the things that are happening in terms of course, industry-wide, yes. How global economies are shifting, yes. Because that is going to change the way you are going to define how your path is going to be. Your path is nothing but the activities of the process that you are defining right now. Okay, so that was on the process thinking part. Mridul, do let me know in case we are running out of time, and or in case if I need to skip forward. Okay, so moving ahead. Aha, my journey. So enough of the a lot of industry talk. Okay, this guy talks a lot about the industry. This guy is talking a lot about his experience. This guy has definitely done his research over the last few years that he can cite these examples. Yeah, because we used to read a lot, right? I mean, we did not have Google that easily available on our fingertips. But yeah, now that I have it, I will definitely leverage it. So my journey into the process world. So like I've already told, I completed my MBA in 2006. I joined KPIT Cummins at that point in time. I was a fresher. So that was me, I'm done with my MBA. I'm an MBA grad. I'm heading into the corporate world, and this is it. So I hit it with pre-sales, market research, customer profiling. I even did a lot of mergers and acquisition activities, right? So when I say M&A, not from not from the financial aspect of it, but doing the due diligence part of it. If there's a company that we would want to acquire or look to merge with, do we have the right synergies in place? So all of this was happening. Interesting stuff. I will not deny it. Definitely breathtaking moments over there as well. As a fresher, when you get to do all of these things and you see an impact it makes on the organization, I think it's a big wow factor at that point in time. When I look back at it now, it still is. So because that's the first thing I started off with. So I did this for a good 2 years almost. Yeah. And then around 2008, I came across this team within KPIT called BPM. And I got a bit intrigued. And I'm like, okay, so what does this team do? So luckily, I had a connect with the manager of that particular team, who was very happy to even give me an introduction onto what the team does. So I had a good discussion with him. And what I understood when I came out of that half an hour was this team makes flow charts, but they call it process mapping. They do something called attributes. They do something called metadata. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, okay, really, I'm not trying to understand what's happening. So I tried to rack my brains around it. So I did a bit of research on what process mapping is all about. For me, coming out of MBA, it was more about designing flow charts. And I'm like, how tough or how easy can that be? I mean, it's just designing flow charts. I joined the team eventually, yes. Even though, I mean, I did sound like a bit of a skeptic around 20 seconds ago, but I did join that team. And I think that was a big turning point in my entire professional career, because this is exactly where my process journey began. And what we did at that point in time, I mean, very interesting. So we had a Palo Alto based client who is a Fortune 50, yeah, Fortune 100, big, it's a big company, right? And the processes that we documented for them, so we had a process documentation tool, and it involved a lot of things. So it involved the entire spectrum of the order to cash cycle. Now, I talk order to cash and everyone goes like, oh, wow, he's talking about some big process. It's fine. Trust me, it is very simple. If you guys go onto Amazon or Flipkart or even Myntra for that matter, and if you order stuff, you're nothing but doing an order to cash cycle. So just think of it that way. It's plain and simple. Okay. So designing this for that particular organization, which is global, documenting the processes. Now, when you say process documentation, and I was like, okay, we are talking about activity boxes, we are talking about who the players are, but what's more to this? What is more to this? Okay, so then I got to understand that this company was so process driven, and they had this process culture so embedded with their employees that everyone, so if I were to come to your team and say that, Yayati, what does your team do? Hold on, I've got a process map for that. So I could talk to anyone about my process, what I do in that particular process, what my team does. So they were leveraging these process maps. I'm still calling them process maps for a reason. Okay, they were leveraging these process maps for trainings, for their discussions with any IT related change, for any IT related deployments, for even like, the CEO level, CXO level discussions, like country head level discussions, strategic, whatever in nature, like, these were being leveraged. And that intrigued me more. I'm like, this is just a process map. This is just a flow chart. Yes, it is a flow chart, but the kind of data that we were capturing in each of these activities, we were actually talking about if, say, customer places the order, I could do a double click on that activity and I could say what fields in SAP or what fields in any system is that customer required to fill. So this kind of data was actually present in each of the activities, which does not come out in normal flowcharts, but I can create reports of it. I could view them differently. I could then tweak them for each region. So if I'm talking to someone from US, I'll be like, this is the global process, but your team follows, say, only particular steps in it. Or, okay, you are from the UK region. This is the global process of 10 steps, but your team follows these 8. These 2 are not followed. How does this drive? So this is the entire process thinking that I'm talking about, right? So I'm talking more of a next stage wherein that process thinking is implemented. So if you're trying to understand where I'm coming from, thinking process, looking at process gives a very different viewpoint. If I keep talking to you and if there would have been no structure to a presentation, I would have had the thank you slide before, I would have had some other slide in between. There would be a logical disconnect, right? And even the way in which I've structured my points, had I said, okay, this is what I do right now, this is what I did then, but I actually started off over here. It's a chronological order. So when I try to look at things in that manner, I start thinking that, okay, this is what my process looks like. Good to know, good to know. And as an end user, you will definitely see that there are certain areas of improvement. And more you start looking at things from process angle, you start looking at things that we have certain users who are running the show. There are certain users who are benefiting from it. There are certain users who are providing inputs to us. And you start looking at it from their point of view and your point of view together. It paints a whole new picture altogether. Okay. And there are a lot of tools to doing it. So there are a lot of process management tools. There are a lot of process mapping tools. I don't want to get into too many technical details. In my time at Infosys, I have also seen a lot of workflow management tools. So I take a flow chart. I can actually automate it in the sense I make screens out of it. So what you see on your Amazon screens, I can actually design those as well. So things became that more intuitive, that more user-friendly. And process started taking a very different turn by 2008, by 2010, by 2012. That entire evolution of how people started looking at processes started changing. And this calls for actually, so we should take a pause over here. And I think I hit a good point. I know, Mridul, you might come to that point later, but so this is where I started off with the point that we need to respect individuals and we need to ensure that they are on board with us. And this entire part, when I say about people, you have to ensure if people are there who don't understand the way you look at processes, the way I see processes, it's time to get them up to speed, right? It's time to get them up to speed. Sorry, Mridul, you had something.
No, I thought you wanted to bring up something.
Oh,
But
okay, okay, yeah.
yeah, it's going good process. So continue.
Okay, thank you so much. Cool. So, so this was my entire entry into process, and ultimately, I had my own personal evolution over here as well, right? And the way organizations have been using this process mindset, this process, the process culture. Yeah, let's talk about process culture, because process thinking happens at an individual level. Process mindset is still happening at an individual level. But in order for me to drive process improvement in a bigger manner, whether for me personally, whether for my team as a whole, whether for my unit as a whole, whether for the organization as a whole, that process improvement requires a process culture in the very organization. So that's where the term transformation actually comes into picture, right? I mean, everyone is wondering that change means the same thing, transformation means the same thing, improvement sort of means the same thing. So what exactly are we talking about? So yes, fundamentally, I do agree. They do mean the same. And I will not refute the fact that I will give you a dictionary definition to tell you on what parameters these are different. So we'll not get into that discussion. Transformation, let's come to that. We talk about process thinking. We talk about developing a process mindset. We talk about looking at things from a process viewpoint, a process lens. Let me tell you something, or let me cite an example of what we do at Deutsche Bank, right? So my team is very pivotal in driving this entire process mindset within the bank, across various sectors in the bank also, right? Various teams that are there in the bank. Traditionally, how it goes, and this applies for almost all organizations, not just Deutsche Bank, teams are built, teams continue to do their work, teams are doing good on their own. But are these teams talking to each other? In majority of the cases, like earlier, like when organizations started driving and started moving on to the process mindset part of it, they understood that, you know what, I have various teams who are required to push this organization together, but I don't think my teams are talking to each other. Okay, yes, that's a fair point. So if you would ask me what's happening on the procurement side of things, I really don't have much idea. Hey, do you know what's happening on the front office side of things, or what's happening on the sales side of things, on the retail sales side of things, on the investment banking side of things, for that matter? I really don't know that, because, like, my work is this and I just do these steps within my work. There you go. So the fundamental problem always starts over there. And you will learn these. So these are some of the jargons that you will learn in your MBA course. And as you enter the workforce, this is something that you will see predominantly, that there are many teams who are doing really good on their own. Get them together, there will be a bit of a disconnect because we really don't understand how different teams work. And this is where driving a process culture actually comes into play. And my team in Deutsche Bank actually does that. So we have something called as transformation, and within transformation we have process, of which I'm a part. And what we do is, yes, we document processes, no doubt about that. We enable teams across the bank also to document their processes. You know what, some of these actually come as a banking regulators ask also, that do you know your processes well, do you have them documented properly? So our team is the one that actually designs the standards. Like, these are the bare minimum standards in which your processes should look like. Your process maps should look in this manner. These are the various attributes that you need to capture. Like when I say attributes, that's nothing but metadata in terms of which location is what step performed. Like, maybe there is analyst who's sitting here in Pune, a supervisor who's there in Mumbai, and a director who's there in London. And my work is actually flowing across these people. Does my process map actually call that out? Yes, it does, because those are the standards that my team sort of drives. We don't just do that. We conduct a lot of trainings as well in terms of what is process, how to do process mapping. Yes, we do that, and we do that across different levels of the hierarchy in the organization as well. And it is a bit of a challenge at times to get people on the same boat, but you know what, that's always going to be the challenge. Like, we are all individuals, right? So the I factor is there. I'm an individual, you are each an individual. The thought process is very different. So the alignment of that thought process onto what we want to do as a bank, what we want to do, let's drive that process culture. So that's where we come from. And the one thing which I pride myself on is that we don't just talk about process maps anymore. And this has been the case from 2008. Don't get me wrong. This is what I have seen across, and something which I'm continuing to do now as well. It's all about creating something which is for your knowledge. Think of this as a knowledge management portal, like, a knowledge management tool. Anyone in the bank at any point in time can access it, can see how actually the processes traverse between departments. What is the interlinkage between departments? What are the handoffs between different departments? So what is it that we're talking about? The output of one department, how is it consumed by another department? How is it used? What happens after that in the front office? What is happening in the middle office? What's happening in the back office? Who are the people that are involved? What's the time that it takes? So these are the kind of things, these are the kind of key things that we sort of drive in our discussions. And yes, we do have forums wherein we have people from across the bank together. We get their inputs as well. Like I said, respect the individual, respect people. Yes. So hear what people have to say. And this is another concept of lean, which says voice of customer, right? So know your customers, know your end customers. You could be your own customer as well, right? I mean, there's something that you always want. There's something that you always desire. Try to understand what the customer wants. Try to get them on the same page as you. Try to get them on the same level of thought process that they are. Someone might be higher. Someone might be thinking of process in a different way. We will leverage that. Why not? Someone does not understand process at all. Let's bring them up to speed. But yes, ultimate goal of my team over here is to definitely, ensure that people think process. People start looking at things from a process, whether it is a work which is being done by an analyst or by a director, by a VP, by a managing director. We try to bring that, and we have got some really good traction from various teams in the bank. So definitely a proud moment for me to also talk about this over here. Like I said, it helps me look at things in a whole new light altogether. What does it help me with further, right? I talk about it enables me to actually do a lot of analysis on what I can do. So there are teams who are spending some time. There are teams that are not spending enough time doing the tasks. Sorry, when I say not spending enough time, maybe it's happening too fast. So what is it that they are doing differently? What is it that some things can be made better? There's a lot of manual activity in terms of Excel, copy paste, VLOOKUPs, crunch the numbers. Can we automate that? Yes, we can. I personally am also involved in something called process mining, a very new concept. Not very new. I mean, we always had. So in the world of data that we live in, we have tons of data, and the bank also has got a lot of data, right? So I can actually leverage the system data which is there and actually run it into a tool and see that, okay, this is how the process is actually functioning. This is the real-time way in which it is functioning. And then we can have discussions with the team. We try to see that, what is it that you're doing? Is this in line with what you had always thought of? Let's look at making things better. Let's do that. So the ultimate aim again over here is definitely to make things better. And of course, I'm just going to throw in a few jargons out here. And these are words that will come up as in when you move ahead in your course, when you move ahead in your in your professional careers as well. When it comes to processes, if I have the same teams across different locations doing the same process in a different way, I really need to standardize it. I'm doing it in 4 steps. Someone in Mumbai is doing it in 7 steps. Someone in UK is just doing it in 2 steps. Okay, wait a minute. What's happening out here? The inputs are the same. The outputs are the same. You know what, let's get them all together in a room. So yes, we do these kind of exercises. Automation I've already touched upon. And ultimate goal is yes, let's make processes very efficient, right? I mean, you can let a process run. Like I give an example right now, which was I do it in 4 steps. Someone else does it in 7. Someone else does it in 2 steps. maybe I'm too pretty content out here saying that at least I'm achieving my end objective. The answer is no, it's not. The time that I take is different. The time that the team in Mumbai takes is different. The costs that are involved across locations is different. The quality of the output is different. So there are a lot of factors that start coming in, right? I mean, and then you start thinking that, oh, wait a minute, let us at what is the process that is being followed by these different teams across different locations. And trust me, when you start looking at it from that lens, that's when you will start understanding that, oh, okay, 2 activities, but you have 4 people running it. 7 activities run by 3 people. 4 activities run by 1 person. There you go. So you can start. So there are a lot of things that come out of these, right? I mean, there's a lot of insights that you can derive when you start looking at processes. I'm giving you examples from work because this is something that will eventually come to you. And it can apply to a sales process. It can apply to a finance process. It can apply to a HR process, as long as you look at it from a process point of view. And all of these things happen for a reason, right? I mean, there's a particular set of guidance that is always there. So, for example, now you guys have a plan right now that the institute would have given you, the college would have given you, that this is the plan, this is the entire plan, this is what we are going to do now over the period of next 3 months. Boom, COVID scenario comes into picture. The institute has to go back. They have to put on their thinking hats on. They again have to revise what they are doing. They come up with a new plan altogether. They come up with a guiding principle. They come up with something as a guidance for you all. What is this guidance? It is nothing but a framework that they're putting into picture, right? And you know what, knowingly, unknowingly, and this is where I'm going to come to the initial point where I said, if I were to go and talk to my 20-year-old self, if I were to go back 16 years into my MBA beginning, at that point in time, this is what I would tell Yayati, that, you know what you're doing is fine. That's correct. You have entered MBA. It's all good. You're going to do it well. You're going to learn tons of stuff. You're going to meet new friends. You're going to learn a lot of new things. Think process. Think it from a framework point of view. Once you start thinking it from a framework, you will eventually get the discipline. You will understand that there is a nature that starts coming in when you start looking at things from a framework, because you start adhering to the steps over there. You start disciplining yourself in that manner. Adherence being the key word out here. So get that process mindset. Get that thing going. Mridul, are we okay on time?
Absolutely fine, Yayati.
Okay. Thank you. So,
but,
yeah,
there are questions that have already started to come in.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We would like to give a lot of attention and importance to that as well.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
You go.
Okay. So maybe I'll quickly summarize the next few slides, because I think so far people do get a gist of where I'm coming from when I talk about process, how to look at things from a process point of view. And now that I've come to the point which is called the framework which sort of instills a bit of a discipline, instills a lot of discipline, which ensures that there is guidance always, and you have to show adherence to it. So I'm going to give a personal example. Okay, I'm going to give a very personal example which is close to my heart, because I went through it. I went through it myself. So I know Mridul did call out in the beginning that, so yes, I became a fitness enthusiast a few years ago. Before that, I wasn't, but I did realize that, it's high time I start getting into it. So music was always happening. I was pretty disciplined when it comes to band practice sessions, when it comes to practicing my stuff before going onto stage and things like that. That apart, so once the fitness journey started, a good discipline came in the form of that, yes, I need to go for runs in the morning. I need to go for cycling in the morning. I need to hit the gym. So because there's already there's already an area out there. And like I said, blam, there comes the lockdown. Everything goes for a toss. And I'm like, okay, I'm like totally stuck out here. What do I do? What do I do? My entire fitness plans for this year are going for a toss, because I think this started off in March. Here we are in June. And in the month of March itself, we said that we have no idea where we are heading. I mean, in terms of when this would get over, it was all wait and watch. It still is wait and watch. Now we have to be a little more careful, no doubt about it, even though things have eased up a bit. But yeah, I was like, what am I doing out here? What do I need to do more? And it's an article. I started penning down stuff and I wrote about it and I posted it on LinkedIn. So it's there on one of my LinkedIn posts. I call it time to adapt. Okay, so like I said, we as human beings, we are so, it's in our nature to just evolve. It's inherent nature to embrace change. And this is something we tend to forget at times. But I feel that, it's always there at the back of our mind. Maybe our genetic makeup is such that we will never forget that. But there are times when it really gets to us that the feeling of helplessness comes into picture. And I will not be ashamed in saying that I was the one who experienced it as well. But I said, okay, you know what? I need to put this down on paper. I need to think about what I'm doing. And that's when I came up with the ADAPT framework. I've just written copyright Yayati out there because I just wrote it on LinkedIn on my own. Please feel free to use it anytime you want to. I mean, there are no royalty fees that I will take. If you see success out of it, I'm more than happy. So what is ADAPT? What is ADAPT? Let's get to that. And I'm going to talk about my experience as well. So the framework and its implementation. Why a framework? Because this is the entire process that I'm talking about. The ADAPT framework actually became a process, right? Let's start off. So I said, enough is enough. There is a lockdown. You are not going to be able to do the stuff that you did before in terms of pursuing your fitness, right? There's going to be a lot of challenges going forward because even once the lockdown is over, we don't know what all is going to open up. We don't know the kind of safety precautions that are required. Will they be put in place properly or not? So there's tons of uncertainty out there. So acknowledge and accept the current situation, which is the present. So please be very aware that what is happening around you, what is happening with you, around you, understand that, acknowledge that, and accept it. Okay, so that is the A part of it. So I did that. I was like, okay, we are in the lockdown. There are not going to be any gyms. There are not going to be any running and all is not allowed because we are not moving out, right? We are not venturing out the way we did earlier. So I said, okay, let's start defining a plan. Let's start defining my goals first before I even get to a plan. When I was gymming, when I was running, when I was cycling, the goals were pretty clear. So gym, yes, maintain a good, healthy physique. Cycling, get that entire 20 kilometers plus cycling distance done every time you go out. Running, I already got my best time at 49 minutes for running 10 kilometers. I wanted to bring it down to 45. Still, the Delhi bahut dur hai wala situation for me right now. I'm working towards that. So I said, okay, let me define the goals, and I kept them smart. And this is something that you will learn during your MBA as well. I'm definitely sure the faculty is going to bring it up. Smart goals, specific, measurable, attainable, real time, realistic, and time bound. So ensure that these fall into these particular parameters. Based on these goals, I actually action plan. So I said, okay, Yati, let's this is a reality check. Let's come up with a plan now. We don't have gym. I don't have weights. I can't cycle around that much. I can't run. So maybe I could run. Maybe I can just do like 50 rounds around my building, which will take care of 5K for that matter. Okay, but keep that aside. So I said I need to get my exercise routine back in place. So I started doing a bit of research. My wife, she herself is a fitness consultant. So exactly, see, I get a lot of people on board. Whenever I have ideas, I sort of drive it past all of my close friends. I try to understand, give me some more inputs. And tada, I have someone who is so close to me. And so she guided me on what I could do in terms of body weight exercises. It took a bit of a mental makeup to acknowledge the fact that and accept the fact that I cannot go to gym. I will not be lifting weights. I will not be able to take those selfies with those weights or with the machine in the background with my gym buddies out there. But yes, we can do body weight exercises. We can do it. So that's a very different action plan that I did. Break it down into a phased approach. So I want six-pack abs. Wow, what a nice goal. Everyone would love to have that. Let's keep it time bound. Do you have an action plan? I'm going to start working out. Okay. How long are you going to work out? I defined my goal in a smart manner. So I'm going to do that over a period of 6 months. I don't want you guys to hold this against me that, Yayati, have you developed your six-pack abs or not? This is just the example. Okay. So break it down. So I've got 6 months to do it. I'll break it down into a phased approach. So first month, I'll do these set of exercises. Second month, I'll do these set of exercises and so on. And of course, I'll also focus on a lot of things. There are a lot of parameters that I need to focus on. So there's going to be my nutrition. There's going to be the timings at which I need to do it. Since I'm working from home now, will I be able to devote enough time for my exercises? Bottom line, yes. take out time for it, because that's a part of the action plan. And once you've written it down, you will never falter on it because it's down on paper. Sign it, just for fun, just sign it out there. That's your action plan, broken down into a phased manner. And saving the best for last, just simply execute the plan. So I have been able to get out of that entire mindset wherein I was like, totally bogged down, saying that enough is enough, what's happening, nothing is going right. I could have cribbed all I wanted, but then I got back. I started doing my entire set of exercises at home. Do they happen daily? Answer is yes and no, both. Do they happen more frequently? Has the frequency increased? The answer is yes. And off late, I've started going out running. I've restarted my cycling as well. All safety precautions in place. I do wear my mask. Yes, do ensure that there is social distancing. So it's not like going out, meeting up with friends and coming back. All of that is passé, right? So yeah, so I got back into the zone. I started going again, and I have executed that plan. I adapted to the new normal. This can be on the professional side of things as well, but I know, given the interest of time, I wanted to make the example which is more close to my heart. And one thing which I want to say, and so Mridul, I'm pretty much heading to the last slide now. But this is something which I always would want to, whenever I address MBA students or any juniors for that matter, there are a lot of things that happen, right? I mean, the professional life, your career part, the entire thing is there. You can get sucked into that entire corporate quagmire of events that take place. And of course, there's never enough of everything. You always want more. One last piece of advice is going to be that think process, have that process mindset, bring about the process culture within yourself, in your personal lives as well. Don't just think of it, I want to use this in my job, I want to do this in my professional career going forward. Yes, do it over there. You will definitely see results. Apply it on yourself, and don't forget some of the finer things in life, right? And oh, sorry, I just need to bring that up. Yeah. So drive that transformational change. I'm going to reiterate that again. By adopting the process mindset, enable your process thinking, but please go beyond the workplace. So yes, I cycle, I run. So that photograph which is there with a red scarf or something, so that's me also taking part in a one-act play. I think that's the only one I've done so far ever since I started working. That's me at an office performance. And of course, the center of it all, where I draw my energy from, my family. So there you go. So yeah, so I would like to end the presentation part at least, or my talk part, on that note. I hope that's fine.
Yes, we'll take few questions here.
Yes, please.
So you might want to sip some water.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, so let's try and connect process transformation to some of the key buzzwords that we come across in the office these days. Are you with us? Okay. So I'll repeat my question. So let's try and connect process transformation with some of the key buzzwords that we are hearing in today's era. So process transformation versus artificial intelligence or data mining.
So very good question, and I think a very thought-provoking question, Mridul. So artificial intelligence, I think that's something very different, right? I mean, we are talking about, so okay, there's a process that is happening over there as well. So if I look at it, whether I'm documenting processes, there is always going to be a process which is there in the inherently behind a particular thing that we want to look. So whether it is AI, I want to develop an AI platform wherein I write a piece of code that is sort of, so the machine learning part of it along with AI, like that code is self-learning. So you have a lot of people who leverage Python to do a lot of automation in code, right? So the things like that, that itself I feel is a process. And the people who would want to implement that, if they don't know for what process they're doing it for, I think there is going to be a big disconnect out there. Same thing I would say in terms of data mining. So, okay, you give me the data. I'm a data mining expert. I'm a complete expert of the field. I know how the tool works completely, right? I know how the application works. I go to any client, I go to any team for that matter. I say, give me your data and I will mine it for you. So I will do it with my limited knowledge sense. Now, when I go to the team also, if they have not documented this, or if the team are not in a process thought, they don't have that process mindset, they don't have a process thinking, they they will not be able to relate to what I'm trying to show them. So I think there are buzzwords, you are right, but the process culture which is there will always sort of be a bit of a backbone. It will sort of be your entire spinal column, which needs to keep you erect out there. So there is something which is there as a guiding principle. So you would always need a process framework at the back of it all.
Sure. And how would you connect process to innovation?
Process to innovation, I think, has always been the key. I mean, this is an example which I would really want to tell people. So earlier we used to walk, someone became lazy and actually said that walking is a process which is tiresome for me. Let me invent the wheel. So there you go. So that's how the wheel came into picture, right? I mean, that's one of the most earliest examples I can think of. Process definitely drives innovation. Um, People who actually think process, and like I said, you have to keep that voice of customer aspect which I mentioned, Bridul, right? So I think that is pretty key out here. So when I talk voice of customer, I have a good process in place, so I've got a good end product. Chalo, I'll not even talk about process. I'm not even going to get into the process word. I'll not even bring it up. I have an extremely nice product which I personally like. I take it to the market. It flops completely. So I'm citing a particular company out here. Maybe so this I'll leave it as a. I mean, ideally in a normal situation where things were face to face, we could have kept it as a quiz for the students, but that's fine. I mean, I'll say it at the end. So the product flops completely when I hit the market the first time, and suddenly I realized, I take a step back. I was doing it from my viewpoint. I never understood what the client wanted. I never understood what the customer wanted. How will I make it better? How will I drive that change? I need to take a step back. What exactly does that product do?
Mhm.
Then I have, what exactly does my customer want? Am I meeting that? How am I meeting it? I'm going to look at the process that is being done.
Sure.
What are the activities that my product does? Who are the end users of it? What are the inputs? What are the outputs? Is my customer talking about the same thing? Is my end client talking about the same thing? Apple, I think, is the biggest game changer when it comes to innovation. iPhone, MacBook, Mac Air, you name it. Like, the entire thing. So, I mean, and this is something which I would give as a takeaway to the students as well. Do your research on Apple. I think a very good example on how Steve Jobs, he drives that culture itself within the organization. We at Deutsche Bank, in fact, or also, in fact, looking to do it, because innovation, yes, in many different ways. I would say innovation can happen in a lot of ways. You can come out with a new product. You can make things more simpler. You can make things which are more streamlined across different places. So yeah, innovation can be defined in different ways. Process will definitely be the backbone which will sort of help you on that front.
Okay, so understood. So there's one question that has come on that. What does process transformation really mean for today's business leaders? And especially if you can cover some aspect of entrepreneurship in it.
Okay, yeah, this is a good thought-provoking one again. Yeah, business leaders, yes. So the way things change, right? I mean, the people who are on top of the game, the way I see it, okay, and this is only in my humble opinion. So the way I see it, they look at things from a very different point of view. There are people who want to see, like, how is it that things are functioning on ground? And if at all a particular calamity comes in, a particular catastrophe comes in, how best I can ensure that my business still works. Yeah, and let's take the lockdown as an example itself. So companies, so many companies, not just Deutsche Bank, I know a lot of companies that have adapted. So this is where the leadership comes into picture, and I'm going to cite leadership examples from work as well, right? So people preempted it that, okay, there is going to be a bit of a lockdown scenario. There's going to be a scenario where people are not going to come to office. That infrastructure setup is not going to be there. How equipped are they? So they understood that. They said that, okay, things are going to change. The way we work, the process in which we work is going to change completely. They started doing something which is more of an output of process transformation. They started enabling people to, like, do their work, sustain their work, continue the work despite the lockdown. A good example of process transformation I can tell. So yeah, so I go to office. I've got my own place, right? I've got my own setup in place. I just need to go there. I click a button. I've logged in. It's seamless. It's very easy. there is no latency, there is no time lag. Are you able to hear me properly, Mridul?
Yes, I am.
Is there a time lag when I speak?
There
Oh,
is
okay, cool. Okay.
there is
So there is a little, okay, I will slow it down. Yeah. So those kind of issues. So the management actually understood. So this is the voice of customer, which I'm talking about, which is more internal. So people actually raised it up in different forums that, you know what, there is a server speed issue. You know what, I don't have the right setup at home. The management actually got together and maybe at a country level, at a city level, across, they started saying that, okay, we really need to up our IT infrastructure. They worked on doing that as well. They ensured that we started getting good connectivity at home in terms of servers, the service connectivity, because we are not going to be on the office network right away, the way it is normally. They even provided good hardware support on that front as well, that if anyone is in need of anything, let us know, we will be doing that. So I think this is where transformation really helps, because if I have my processes in place, if I have something which is changing, say suppose, let me give a little different example. This was something I felt people could relate to more, but then I realize it's again more people who are in the professional setup who could relate to it. But say suppose cyclone comes in a particular region where a lot of your key work of your process is actually taking place. As a leader, as a business leader, whether in a existing setup, if you would not have understood that how exactly that process is performed, do I have the people in other location who can perform that? Those kind of contingency plannings that can actually happen. That business continuity, what we call, right, in the corporate jargon, the business continuity in case of a catastrophe, in case of a calamity, can it continue from another location? Do I have the people who are also enabled with those particular skills? What the people in the severe locations, or rather bad hit locations, are there? So do we have those kind of cross skills that are there between people? Can I still keep the show running? Now, you also asked me to touch upon the point from an entrepreneurship perspective, right? I think from an entrepreneurship perspective, these kind of people I feel are more aggressive in nature. Yes, we all are, no doubt about it, right? We all are. And because over there, it's like, one person running the show. So it could be like, maybe a bunch of entrepreneurs, you're doing it single-handedly. I think a good example would be, so if you're a corporate trainer, where you really want to go, you're enabling people with soft skills. Okay. Let's say someone who is actually talking about how MBA students should actually prepare for their final GDPI interviews. Okay, something like that. So this is a person who actually visits college, does it more personal, face-to-face, is used to that so much that, and can provide proper guidance that way. Crackdown, you have the entire COVID scenario. What do you do now? So this person is someone who is working on his own, her own. They start adapting, right? I mean, they start adapting. These people start thinking of how my normal process is: approach a college, understand what the students are, equip them with a particular framework on how they need to approach the interview process, how they need to talk about themselves. All that is there. Okay, now that I've understood that, I cannot do that face to face anymore. How do I do it next? Okay, what are the different platforms? Do I call up people? Do I set up a conference call? Do I get into video conferences like the way we are doing right now? So this is the entire aspect of change. So unless I don't know what I do beforehand, I will not be able to put my thought on what part needs that change. So over here, it is just the classroom shifted from a physical setup to a virtual setup,
correct.
right?
Mhm.
And that was because I understood what are each of the attributes that are there in each step of my process.
Okay. Uh, so, in one of the slides, you touched a point on uh, discipline is a form of process framework, right? So
Yeah.
how should one focus on making it more like a mental framework? And what are those some of the skills that would be required to do so?
Hmm. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a very good question again. So discipline, yes, I think is always so you can talk about it with your friends. You can read a lot of books. But I think where most of us lack is implementing what we have read, implementing what we have seen and heard. So I think this is where that discipline aspect that comes into picture, right? So if you were to ask me, what I'd personally do is, so if there's a particular concept that I really like, for example, I know that tomorrow morning I have to get up at 5:30 because I have to start running at 6 a.m. Okay. I already have that mental preparation in my mind at 9 p.m. I ensure that it's lights out by 10:30. I will get my sleep. I will not do a binge watch of anything on Netflix or on Amazon Prime for that matter, or keep scoring through all the YouTube videos which are there. So I think that is the kind of framework that you need to develop. If you already have that plan in place, so that will actually come. So let's take a step back, right? I mean, you need to do a bit of a reverse engineering beforehand. You want to achieve something, you want to achieve a goal. What are the steps you need to take to achieve that? What are the steps you need to take, or what requires you to actually perform those steps? So you have to take your step, you have to take always a step back, look at it from your perspective, look at it from a holistic perspective. I think discipline plays a big role, no doubt about it. Discipline will come when you yourself create a particular framework, or once you have understood that, yes. So say, for example, your job also, right? I mean, your work, in your work life, even in your personal life also for that matter, you are doing things because everything is there in a particular framework. You get up at a particular time, you go to office. Now we log in. That's the only difference. We don't drive to work anymore. I know I have to be logged in by 9:30, no doubt about it, or the latest by 10:30. My team will come in by that time. I will start having it. So that's a bit of a mental makeup which is already there. Only thing is to just be constantly doing it. Let that framework become a part of you. And you know what? Don't stop there. And that's where that continuous improvement, that process improvement comes into picture. Now that you have adopted this to the T, you know what is to be done, and you do it just by muscle memory. Like, I go to sleep at 10:30, I get up in the morning at 5. That's it. It is happening involuntary. I don't need to put the alarm anymore. Perfect. That is a point where I say, how can you make this particular thing better as well? So yeah, that's how yeah.
Okay, so well said, Yati. Now you and I would agree that in converting an idea to an execution, the most difficult part that we say is people alignment, more than the budgets or the temperament of self to drive to execution. So you and I we agree that it is the people alignment that troubles the most. So how do you work on those, some of the resistances that you might encounter in your workplace?
Yeah. Okay. Very touchy topic also. But I think, yeah, I mean, it is there, right? I mean, and yes, you are right. We have seen it across, right? Wherever there is change, there will always be resistance. Even when it comes to you, right? Even when it comes to personally you, there will always be resistance. So what stops it from coming in at a very higher level? What stops it coming in from, the management? What stops it coming from some other team who is a client? It's not going to stop. There will always be resistance. There could be fundamental reasons why as well. And I think this is where lean methodology actually plays a big role, right? Respect the individual. Let's start there. I have got an awesome framework. So I can do that entire management consulting gyan part, right? I say, so sir, this is the framework that will actually work. This is the live examples that I've got. There you go. People in the past have done it. I have got these live case studies. I have got citations from my clients, and look, they're doing so well. This will definitely work for you. And the first thing the guy is going to say, I don't buy that point. You know what? I really don't buy that point. It does not, I don't see merit in it. Why? Because I went with something which works. I know it works for you. Do I know it works for you? The answer is no. So same thing happens at the workplace. Yes, whenever we try to drive a bit of a process thinking, there are cases, there are instances, no doubt, where people do say that, do I really need to invest that much time in talking about process? Like, I know what my work is. This is a line that we get. I know what my work is, and I've been doing it so nicely over the last 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, 2 years. You are saying that I can make it better? I'm already doing I'm the best at what I'm doing already. Oh boy. Okay. And that's, and you're like, haven't I been down that road before? I think this is where you really need to respect the individual. You really need to understand what's the background they're coming from. Sit with them. So this is not going to happen at the first go. So Mridul, and this is also the insight which I would want to leave for you. people with that. Boy, I got everyone on the process culture thing in my first call. It doesn't happen that way. It will take time. You have to show people the merit, and you have to say that, okay, let's work on it together. Why don't you explain it? What do you do? So, and that happens irrespective of level, right? That will happen irrespective of where you are, whatever is it. So what is it that you do? Let's start talking about it. Okay, so this is the process. So, okay, so what do you do on an odd day when something like this happens? Create scenarios. So create a scenario, say that, what, okay, so you mentioned that that team is based in the cyclonic region. Sorry, I'm going to drive that example again. So what if that team does not work? What happens then? Like, get them to start thinking about, so these are people who have been doing the processes so much that it is actually muscle memory for them, right? And which is good. We need these people because it is good muscle memory. They know what they're doing and they know how it is done. Now the thing is, we need to get them on the same page with us that, can we make it better? I think so. This is the part where it comes, like, put in those what if scenarios, put in different events that are there. Like, you say that, okay, so if it's you and I, how do we do this in this particular manner? What happens then? Or if I am not there, how would it work for you? You are not there, how would that step work? This will get them thinking. You will definitely get them eventually over time onto your side. So there is resistance. I will not deny it. Is it always easy to break resistance to change? Answer is no. It does take effort, and it does take you to be a little more patient and matured in the way you are managing these particular stakeholders. And like I said, this is not just work. This is across, right? I mean, we have seen it with friendships, we've seen it with family, we see it with our pets, we see it with our kids. It's everywhere. Yeah.
Yes. Someone's actually asked a very basic fundamental question that,
yes, please.
If I want to walk this path of getting into process transformation as a domain,
Nice.
what should be the starting point?
The starting point is start looking at it, everything that you do from a process point of view. So that slide where I had, like, you have activities that are, like, getting triggered by some inputs performed by some users or system. Like, there are some, it's time bound, and of course there are desired results. Start looking at everything from that point of view. So I think I put in some very basic examples over there. Withdrawing cash. Enter, you have to wait in a queue or not wait in a queue. So again, there is an if-else scenario. You'll have to start thinking of it that way. And when you start thinking of process in everything, that's where you'll try to see. You will start off today. You will look at your cash withdrawal process today, look at your cash tomorrow, look at your cash withdrawal process at the ATM, say 1 week down the line. You will eventually understand how you can improve it. I'll tell you how. You will see what is the best time to visit the ATM when there is less crowd. So you waste a very less time out there. So you have made your process efficient. Let's say even apply it to maybe something else, right? So I want to run a 10K in 45 minutes, my ultimate goal. Yeah. So my process behind it, I need to sleep early. So I sleep at 10:30, lights out at 10:30, I get up at 5. I want to start at 6. Okay, I realize this is fine, this is working okay. I do this. Let me sleep at 10. Do I need more sleep? My body needs better time to recover. So I start looking at everything from a process, from those time-bound parameters. Maybe I start running at 5:45. You never know. So you never know how it can impact. So my take, and that's a very good question, and thank you for bringing that up, because process lens is the key word. There's a lot of content online also which can be thought provoking, and I would want you to do your research on it. But my take is those are the basic parameters that are there. The inputs, activities performed, outputs, in what point in time, and by who. That's it. If you start putting these parameters in everything that you see and do, you start putting on that process hat itself. I hope that answers it. Yeah.
It does indeed. So last and final question. So any process transformations at home?
Oh, tons. Oh, tell me about it. So, right. I mean, so what is my guitar room? Suddenly now there's like a big office desk out here. I got our older TV, so I have an extended desktop. So what I would normally have as my speaker setup. So my process is plain and simple. If I want to play the guitar, I come into this room, I plug the guitar, I start playing, I switch on stuff, I start playing, and that's about it. It's as easy as that. Now, if I want to play the guitar, I have to take out the speaker from the cabinet. I have to plug my guitar. I have to find another place to plug it in. So things have changed. So there's a lot of transformation. Yes, we have become more leaner. Yes, no doubt about it. And I'm not talking in terms of physique. I think also in terms of the kind of activities we do at home. Um, can we make our dinner in a much more efficient manner? Do we really need all the stuff that we buy? Oh my god, that is such a big point of discussion, that all the stuff in the kitchen that used to be there before, suddenly I see definitely it has reduced one third easily. That's transformation for you. The utensils have reduced because obviously who is going to clean them at the end of the day? Like, whose turn is it again? So that let's avoid that finger pointing. Let's keep it as less as possible. So yes, there you go. That's lean methodology that got applied over there. We eliminated stuff that we don't require. We made things more simpler for us. We kept it simpler. So the new lifestyle of minimalism in the new normal suddenly being enforced. It's fun. Definitely troubled times, no doubt about it. Times to be very wary about, because we need to be highly aware. I think we need to be really abreast right now of what all is happening in the industry, right? Because world economy itself is changing so much. Sorry, Mridul, I know you spoke about house, but it sort of got me thinking about this point that I missed out, right? Global economy is changing at a very different pace than it was last year itself. We need to be really updated on what we are doing, how things are changing. I think let's talk about that. When I say talk about that, start reading up more. Like, there's tons of content online. I personally have stopped looking at what are the COVID figures, because that sort of gets me down. So I don't read about that much. But what can happen? What are the different ways in which teams are working now? So the video conferencing, definitely one thing. How can this part where I don't get to meet my teammates, how does that make it better? How do I engage people more better? I do my live performances every Saturday on Instagram. How do I keep that connect going on still? So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that are changed. The medium is now different. It's online. The reach can be much more. How do I leverage that? How do I empower that? So how does that work for me? So there's a lot of stuff that is changing, and pace of change is so rapid right now. I think this calls for us to have that process mindset, because the way I see a process today, it can immediately change tomorrow. But unless I'm aware of how it was happening today, how will I know that it has changed tomorrow? Tomorrow it comes as a surprise to me, but at least now I'll be able to fine tune on what is it that changed, what aspect of it changed.
Sure. Thank you, Yati. This tells me that you've given a lot of competition to the homemakers by being at home for the past 2.5, 3 months. All right. So I'm going to give some of the keywords before we conclude the session in your style.
Yes, please.
Hashtag Yayati style. Okay. So process transformation is hashtag look beyond the obvious. Hashtag eye for detailing. Hashtag challenge the status quo. Hashtag consistency. Hashtag culture. Hashtag continuous improvement. Hashtag respecting individuals.
Bingo.
Hashtag adapt.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And last but not the least, hashtag live at 5 with Yati on Insta.
Oh yeah, there you go. I was actually going to say, last but not the least, hashtag never ever quit.
Never.
But yeah, live at 5, yes, that happens on Instagram too.
But thank you so much, Yati, for your time. It was indeed a pleasure to hear you today. A fine Saturday morning.
Yes, yes.
I'm all excited before leaving my home today. But I'm glad we did this. Process transformation is the next big thing that's gonna change the way we operate in our respective organizations, and it's the fundamental of the business today.
Yeah.
So thank you so much once again for bringing it to us. I'm sure our audience liked it, and they posted a lot of good questions to you, which I narrated on their behalf.
Thank you so much. And I would also like to say, as a closing note from my side, I know you will continue next with the audience, but really a good opportunity for me to interact with IIEBM, something which I have not done. This is the first time I'm interacting with the college. And I've had a very good experience with the staff as well. Of course, Mridul, you and I share a very different connect altogether. But I think big thanks for also enabling this entire setup and making it happen. So yes, we adapted to the scenario, but nonetheless, whenever college restarts, I'm more than happy to interact with all of you in person. So definitely looking forward to that. And until then, I would like to say all the very best for your course, all the very best for the days to come. Keep at it, think process, adapt, and you will do well. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.